see, in olden days, in varying and different ways, was very much in vogue. Columbine and Pantaloon, a wistful Pierrot 'neath the moon, and Harlequin a rogue. Nowadays Parisians of leisure wake the echo of an old refrain. Each some ragged effigy will treasure for his pleasure, till the shadows of the story live again. Parisian Pierrot, society's hero. The lord of the day, the rue de la paix, is under your
cheap music is. Didn't Noel say something to that effect?
He said exactly that, and to exactly that piece of music. He also said that he'd always taken light music seriously. Told you where you were when you first heard it.
And who you were with.
In
and how you felt.
In a way it defined you.
And if I may say, he might have added, they don't write them like they used to.
Only too true. Where are the songs we sung when love in our hearts was young? Where in the middle of the swiftly passing years I walked dreams and fears? Where have they gone? Words that rang so true when love in our hearts was new. Where in the shadows that we have to pass alone lie those songs that once we sung. Can you remember all the foolish things we said, the plans we planned, the tears we shed? Where is it now? That enchanted dawn when love in our hearts was born. Where in the shadows that we have to pass on lie those songs that once we sung.
If I had to choose a song that would sum up Noel, it would be the one sung by the cafe chanteuse Manon in Bittersweet. Life is very rough and tumble for a humble disease. One can betray one's troubles never, whatever occurs. Night after night, have to look right, whether you're well or ill. People must laugh their fill. You mustn't sleep till dawn comes creeping. Though I never really grumble, life's a jungle indeed, and in my efforts to succeed, I've had to formulate a creed. I believe in doing what I can, in crying when I must, in laughing when I choose. Hey ho, if love were all, I should be lonely. I believe the more you love a man, the more you give your trust, the more you're bound to lose. Although, when shadows fall, I think if only somebody splendid really needed me, someone affectionate and dear, cares would be ended if I knew that he wanted to have me near. But I believe that since my life began,
but so much more. Remember the speech that his friend Lord Louis Mountbatten gave on the occasion of Noel Coward's 70th birthday. There are probably greater painters than Noel, greater novelists, greater librettists, greater composers of music, greater singers, greater dancers, greater comedians, greater tragedians, greater stage producers, greater film directors, greater cabaret artists, greater TV stars, and so on. If so, there are 14 different people. Only one man combines all 14 talents, the master, Noel Coward.
I don't think anyone's given a better summary of the man who bestrode the first 3/4 of the last century. He did everything and knew everyone, as his letters testify. A Renaissance man who happened to live in the 20th century.
More than anything else he wrote, his letters give testimony to his fears and his loves and his friendships. And unlike his diaries, they weren't written with an eye to eventual publication. They were precisely what he felt when he wrote, his literary DNA.
Many of his closest relationships were with women. For instance, his mother, Violet. He wrote to her every week when he was away. And thank heaven she saved every one of his letters.
50 years of love mingled with a good degree of mutual irritation. She was the archetypal theatrical mother who wrote,
There is so much I could tell you of his dear ways and loving affection when he was a boy. No mother ever had such a son. And I always feel that I'm really and truly more proud of his love for me than of his great success.
although she didn't mind his great success. Darling Mummy, thank you for your nice long letter. I'm sorry I didn't write before, but I've got such a lot to do. You know, I always want you just a very little bit at night when I go to bed, and I generally cry a bit, but it is nothing to speak of. Are there 2 vests of mine at home? It seems to me that I've been wearing the 2 I have on now for ages. I think they are getting somewhat congealed. Please send me the other 2. See how long I could carry off the deception. It was perhaps a bit too successful. A young man declared his passion in the garden, and I had to steer him briskly indoors to the safety of the crowd. The next morning, a letter arrived at the house where I was staying. Dear little flapper, you can only imagine my feelings when I arrived this morning to find that you had flown. I was fearfully sick, as I had been so looking forward to spending an exceedingly pleasant morning with you. Oh, I do call it real hard lines, and I'm still feeling beastly depressed. I have got a little remembrance of you, which I'm loath to part with, your cigarette holder. Should I be presuming too much if I asked for your photo? Well, he never got the photo, and I never got my cigarette holder. Strangely, dear little flapper was never heard from again. Now, like all young actors of our generation, we toured the provinces. Touring days, what ages it seems to me, since the landlady in Norwich served a mouse up in the porridge,
and a beetle in the morning tea.
Touring days, alluring days, far back in the past we gaze. We used to tip the dressers every Friday night,
and pass it over lightly when they came in tight.
but somehow to us it seemed all right.
Those wonderful touring days. Well, the whole point of touring the provinces was that someone important would spot your blazing talent and offer you a job in the West End. So, until you became a tour de force, you were forced to tour.
Darling Mummy, I was sent for to see Gilbert Miller, the great American impresario. He'd come down especially to see me, and he said I was really splendid in the play. He wants me for a terrific part in The Saving Grace with Sir Charles Hawtrey. Isn't it gorgeous? He says he has perfect confidence in me and that I am thoroughly natural and unaffected. Oh, I am a star.
Not yet a star, but it was a start. He could never be accused of not aiming high. One of his first plays was called The Young Idea.
Based, I'm afraid, all too closely on Bernard Shaw's You Never Can Tell. Well, Shaw could tell. When I sent him the script, he returned it with detailed annotations, such as, "No, you don't, young author," and a little note which read, "I have no doubt you will succeed if you persevere and take care, above all, never to see or read my plays. Unless you can get clean away from me, you will begin as a back number and be hopelessly out of it when you are 40.
Not exactly encouraging, but more than compensated by a message from Gilbert Miller, which he couldn't wait to convey to his mother Violet via telegram.
My play, The Last Trick, accepted for America. Stop. Advance of $500. Stop. Passing peacefully away. Stop. Without no. For $500, I would happily have turned War and Peace into a music hall sketch in London and came to New York. Well, she's had a huge success in a play called Dulcie. She's Dulcie. I went to see her opening night with her fiancé, an actor called Alfred Lund, and my dear, a star was born. They are both going to be huge stars. And since we all know that yours truly is going to be one as well, we've decided that when that great day arrives, we shall act together in a play that I shall write for us. And the cosmos will have a new galaxy. Well, that's all for now. Must rush, or the Astors and the Vanderbilts will think I'm not coming. It won't be long now before your dear son is back to bore everyone with his stories and exploits, some of which actually happened.
His verdict on that first trip to New York City?
It seemed, in spite of its hardness and irritating, noisy efficiency, a great and exciting place. I like America. I have played around every happy underground, but I'm America, okay. I've been about a bit, but I must admit that I didn't know the half of it till I hit the USA. No likely lass in Boston, Mass from passion will recoil. In Dallas, Texas, they talk of sex, but only think of oil. New Jersey dames go up in flames when someone mentions bed. In Chicago, Illinois, any girl who meets a boy giggles and shoots him dead. Like America, its variety offers infinite society, and come what may, I shall return one day to the good old USA.
And return he did many times. It became a second home to him, and the Lunts a second family. They were one of the threads throughout the rest of his life. Another would be Gertrude Alexander Dagmar Lawrence Clausen, or Gertrude Lawrence, or Gertie.
I met her as yet another child actor. She was a vivacious child with ringlets, to whom I took an instant fancy. She was very mundane, carried a handbag with a powder puff, and frequently dabbed her generously turned up nose. She offered me an orange, told me a few mildly dirty stories, and I loved her from then on.
I think the attraction was mutual. Mad about the boy. It's pretty funny, but I'm mad about the boy. He has a gay appeal that makes me feel there may be something sad about the boy. Walking down the street, his eyes look out at me from people I meet. I can't believe it's true, but when I'm blue, in some strange way, I'm glad about the boy. Lord knows I'm not a fool girl, I shouldn't really care. Lord knows I'm not a schoolgirl in the flurry of her first affair. Will it ever cloy this odd diversity of misery and joy? I'm feeling quite insane and young again, and all because I'm mad about the boy.
When this song was included in the 1938 review set to music, I had originally planned to add an extra verse to be sung by a soberly suited businessman. Mad about the boy, most peculiar. But I'm mad about the boy. And only Dr. Freud could have enjoyed these vexing dreams I've had about the boy. When I told my wife, she said,
I've never heard such nonsense in my life.
her lack of sympathy embarrassed me, but made me frankly glad about the boy. My doctor can't advise me. He'd help me if he could. 3 times he's tried to psychoanalyze me, but it's just no good. People I employ have the impertinence to call me Myrna Loy. I rise above it, frankly love it, because I'm absolutely Fortunately, wiser counsel prevailed. After all, it was only 1938, and it was Boston. A few years before, I had written Private Lives as a vehicle for Gertie and myself. As soon as I put my pen down, I cabled to her. I have written delightful new comedy, stop. Good part for you, stop. Wonderful one for me, stop. Keep yourself free for autumn production.
Have written new play. Stop. Nothing wrong that can't be fixed. Stop. Gertie.
The only thing that will need to be fixed is your performance. Stop. No. And of course we did Private Lives and became Noel and Gertie overnight and forever after.
Nasty, insistent little tune.
Yes, isn't it? Extraordinary how potent cheap music is.
What have you been doing lately, during these last years?
Traveling about, I went around the world, you know, after...
Yes, yes. How was it?
The world?
Yes.
Oh, highly enjoyable.
China must be very interesting.
Very big, China.
And Japan?
Very small.
Did you eat shark's fins and take your shoes off and use chopsticks and everything?
No, practically everything.
And India, the burning gauze or ghats or whatever they call them. And the Taj Mahal. How was the Taj Mahal?
Unbelievable. A sort of dream.
Well, that must have been the moonlight, I expect. You must have seen it in the moonlight.
Yes, moonlight is cruelly deceptive.
And it didn't look like a biscuit box, did it? I always felt that it might.
Darling, darling, I love you so.
Someday I'll find you, moonlight behind you, true to the dream I am dreaming. As I draw near you, you'll smile, a little smile, for a little while. We shall stand hand in hand. I'll leave you now. I'll love you forever. All our past sorrows relieve. Try to make it true. Say you love me too. Someday I'll find you.
You always had a sweet voice, Amanda. When Cavalcade opened on October 13th, 1931 at the Theatre Royal, Drury Lane, Gertie was in that first night audience.
Here I am on my knees to you in humble admiration and complete adoration. As you say, it's pretty exciting to be English, but it's also pretty exciting to love you as I do. This, you may be surprised to see, is from old Gert.
There was a general feeling that Gertie and I played continuously but in fact we were only together in 3 productions. Tonight at 8:30 was the third and last.
And for me, the best. Was it in the real world or was it in a dream? of eternal
Was it accidental or accurately planned? How could I hesitate, knowing that my fate led me by land? You were there. I saw you and my heart stopped beating. You
were there. And in that first enchanted meeting, life changed its tune. The stars, the moon came near to me.
dreams that I dreamed like magic seemed to be clear to me.
Dear to me.
You were there. I looked into mine and faltered everywhere. The color of the whole world altered, false became true. My universe tumbled into. The earth became heaven for you. We planned a number of other projects, but somehow they didn't come to anything, even though Gertie would write.
I would so much like for us to be back once again, hand in hand at curtain calls.
And in any case, Gertie had some personal successes of her own, such as the Kurt Weill Ira Gershwin musical Lady Be Good, 1941. I'm afraid I couldn't resist another cable. I hope you get a warm hand on your opening. You were there. I thought she'd always be there for me, until one day she wasn't. Perhaps her biggest personal success in later years was The King and I, which Rodgers and Hammerstein had written specially for her. It opened in 1951 and won every award one had ever heard of, and quite a few one hadn't. But there were problems here, and they surfaced quite suddenly. They had to do with Gertie's voice, never strong, but now becoming decidedly problematic, even though Richard Rodgers had written the songs especially for her vocal range. But then there seemed to be a remission.
Well, what do you know? After that short siege of vocal doldrums, my voice suddenly returned. My spirits rose, and my hackles fairly bristled with vitality. So it seems we haven't got that much to worry about. I just struck a bad patch, and you came and sat in it. Oh dear, it's always you I want to please above anyone.
But it wasn't just a bad patch. I only learned later that her condition had worsened again, and this time dramatically. The doctors appeared to be baffled, and the only ones who knew the gravity of the situation were her agent, Fanny Holtzman, and her sometime lover, Daphne du Maurier. I spent the day at the races and read about her death in, of all things, the stock press of the evening paper. Poor darling Gertie, a lifelong friend. In spite of her overacting and silliness, I never knew her to do a mean or unkind thing. And I am terribly unhappy to think that I shall never see her again.
I'll see you again whenever spring breaks through again. Time may lie heavy between, but what has been is past forgetting. Oh, sweet memory, across the years will come to me. Though my world may go awry, in my heart will never lie just the echo of a sigh.
Sometimes I would look across the stage at her, and she would take my breath away. Though my world may go on high, and and we never said goodbye. I shall love her till I die. I'll remember her, how incredibly naive she was. I couldn't quite believe she was sincere. So alert, so impertinent, and yet so sweet. My defeat was clear. I'll remember her absurd exaggerating and her utterly deflating repartee. And the only thing that worries me at all is whether she'll remember me. I'll remember her in the evening when I'm lonely and imagining if only she were there. I'll relive, oh so vividly, our sad and sweet, incomplete affair. I'll remember her, heavy-hearted when we parted, with her eyes so full of tears she couldn't see. And I'll feel inside a foolish sort of pride to think that she remembers me. It's more than likely that Gertie spoiled me for other leading ladies, and there were many of those. I remember saying once, God preserve me in the future from female stars. Don't suppose he will, and of course he didn't. There were some like Yvonne Printemps who couldn't help it. In Conversation Piece, I remember her English was negligible throughout, but by the end of the run the entire company was speaking excellent French. On one occasion, she delivered the immortal line, "The clouds are pissing across the sun." Well, there's no answer to that. And then there was Mary Martin in Pacific 1860. On one occasion I had to point out to her that one does not say to Princess Margaret,
Give my best to your sister. Bye-bye for now.
However, a few years later, we were together with music again in a television special, and very happily so. So that was all right.
Together with music, together with music, we planned this moment long, long ago. Many a year we sighed and think for both of us knew.
Many a moon would wax and wane before this dream came true.
Together with music, together with music, at last the gods have said okay. When those first notes we hear, a million stars appear.
Our personal world goes round and round.
Gain and wide for some, everything shining and bright. This is our jubilee, because at long, long last we happen to be together with music tonight. I remember you always had a thing about people learning their lines before the first rehearsal.
Well, with someone like my darling Bee Lily, you'd be lucky if she learned them at all. Sometimes I was so frustrated by the way she was mangling my lines, I would have to retire to the lobby and jump up and down. In the beginning, before I knew better, I tried everything. On one occasion when she was coming by ship to New York to star in a review of mine, I resorted to cabling her using her title, Lady Peel. Pretty witty Lady Peel, never mind how sick you feel, never mind your broken heart, concentrate and learn your part.
Thinks musty, dusty Noel C for beastly wise and Lady P. To concentrate is hard, I fear. So now she's crying in her beer.
But what she does do, in spite of what one writes for her, has a certain beguiling magic, and audiences love her. That is star quality.
Star quality is what he immediately recognized in Elaine Stritch. He also recognized that in dealing with her, the velvet glove had better contain an iron, if ironic, fist.
Darling Stritchy, I hope that you are well, that your cold is better, that you are singing divinely, that you are putting on weight, and you are not belting too much. that your skin is clear and free from spots and other blemishes, that you are delivering my brilliant material to the public in the manner in which it should be delivered, that you are not making too many goddamn suggestions, that your breath is relatively free from the sinful taint of alcohol, that you are going regularly to confession and everywhere else that it is necessary to go regularly. Remember that your first duty is to me and the Catholic Church in that order. I remain yours sincerely with mad hot kisses.
Now, Noel, are you sitting down? Ready? I don't drink at all. Anything. I mean anything anymore. And I must say it's an adventure. The results have been world-shaking. I look and feel about 13 years old. I'm up at 10, do my own marketing, walk the dog 3 times a day in the park. I've been to the laundromat. One of the biggest decisions in life is whether it'll be V8 juice, plain tonic, sugar-free, or unsweetened grapefruit juice at cocktail time. You have a strange effect on me. Every time I see you or talk to you, I somehow immediately go on the wagon. Unless, of course, I'm working for you, in which case I double my intake. So what does that mean? I've had 2 beers a day since I last saw you. Well, 3 today.
2 beers or 3, Stritchy could certainly put a number across.
Why do the wrong people travel, 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 when the right people stay back home? What compulsion compels them, and who the hell tells them to drag their bags to Zanzibar instead of staying quietly in Omaha, the Taj Mahal and the Grand Canal and the sunny French Riviera? Would be less oppressed if the Middle West would settle for someplace rather near. Please do not think that I criticize or cavil at a genuine urge to roam. But why do the wrong people travel when the right people stay back home with all that lettuce? When the right people stay back home. Why do the wrong people travel, travel, travel when the right people stay back home? What explains this mass mania to leave Pennsylvania and clack around like flocks of geese, demanding dry martinis on the aisles of Greece, the quiet streets where the gourmets meet? They invariably fetch up, and it's hard to make them accept a steak that isn't served rare and smeared with ketchup. Millions of tourists are churning up the gravel as they gaze at St. Peter's Dome. But why do the wrong people travel and the right people stay back home and clip those coupons when the right people stay back home? Why do the wrong people travel, travel, travel when the right people stay back home? What peculiar obsessions inspire these processions of families from Houston, Texas, with all those cameras around their necks? They would take a train or an aeroplane for an hour on the coast of Brava. Then they'll see Pompeii on the only day that is up to its ass in molten lava. It would take years to unravel, ravel every impulse that makes them roam. But why do the wrong people travel when the right people stay back home and eat hot donuts? When the right people stay back home and play canasta? When the right people stay back home and mind their business? When the right people stay back home, I sometimes wonder why the right people stay back home. I'm merely asking why the right people stay back home. Won't someone tell me why the right people stay back home?
lovely Marlena. She phoned me from Hollywood after she'd seen my first real film, The Scoundrel, in 1935. I thought it was someone playing a practical joke, so I hung up. But when Miss Dietrich cabled me the next day,
I see you every night and talk of you all day. Stop. Marlena.
well, what's the boy to do? One of the things I did was to become her lifelong friend, and she mine. She would meet my ship or plane, cook me the occasional meal like the good German Hausfrau she was under the glamorous facade, and wash everything in sight, including on one occasion my hairbrush, which was already perfectly clean. It was always my ambition to teach her about humor, as in sense of humor. Unteachable, I suspect. At one point I said to her wittily that all I required of my friends these days was that they should survive through lunch. She gave me a puzzled look.
By lunch.
You see what I mean? There was a certain price to pay, I must admit. I had to hold her hand metaphorically through her many love affairs. There was Ed Morrow, Jean Gabin, Michael Wilding, twice at least, Adlai Stevenson, Kirk Douglas, Frank Sinatra, Edith Piaf. How much time do you have? And Yul Brynner. Oh God, Yul Brynner.
Darling, last week in New York, I stood at the door when he came. I was not going to do one wrong thing. He came in smiling and told me about Paris, the Eiffel Tower in the fog, the streets, the bridges, and how he thought about me. I stood there thinking, this is not a dream. He is back and he loves me. I made coffee as usual, gave him aspirin as usual after a drinking night. He left as usual, and at the door I said, as usual, when will I hear from you? He said, later. He did not call.
I wrote to her from Jamaica. Oh, darling. Your letter filled me with such a lot of emotions. The predominant one being rage. That you should allow yourself to be so humiliated and made so unhappy by a situation that really isn't worthy of you. It is difficult for me to wag my finger at you from so far away, particularly as my heart aches for you. But really, darling, you must pack up this nonsensical situation once and for all. Stop it. Stop it. Other people need you. Incidentally, there is one fairly strong-minded type who will never let you down and will love you very much indeed. Just try to guess who it is. How much good it did, I will never know.
Falling in love again, never wanted to. What am I to do? I can't help it. No, never again. Never the strange, unthinking joy. Never the pain. Let me be wise enough to doubt romance. Try to live without romance. Let me be sane. Time changes the tune, changes the pale unwinking stars, even the moon. Let me be soon strong enough to flout romance. Try to live without romance. Never again, never again, never, never again.
Love is meant to make you glad. Love can make the world go round. Love can drive you raving mad, torment you and upset you. Love can give your heart a jolt, but philosophers have found that it's wise to do a bolt when it starts to get you down.
So you're saying love's first fine, careless rapture doesn't last?
No, I'm not saying it. Robert Browning said it. Sometimes it was never really there to begin with. And you know, the worst thing is that by the time they realize it, Jack and Jill have now become that darling old couple beloved by one and all, Darby and Joan.
We do not fear the verdict of posterity. Our lives have been too humdrum and mundane. In the twilight of our days, having reached the final phase, in all sincerity, we must explain. We are
Dear old couple, and we hate
one another, and we hate one another for a long, long time, since the day that we were wed up to the present. Our lives, we must confess, have been progressively more unpleasant. We're just sweet old darlings who despise one another, favoring us approaching the sublime. But through all our years we've been affectionately known as the Bronxville Darby and Joan. Our golden wedding passed with all our family, an orgy of remembrance and rue. In acknowledgement of this, we exchanged a loving kiss, a trifle clammily, because we knew we are dear old couple who detest one another. We detested one another since our bridal night, which was squalid, unattractive, and compulsive. Beyond dispute that we were mutually repulsive. We're just sweet old darlings who torment one another with the utmost maliciousness and spite. Through all our years we've been inaccurately known as the Bronxville Darby and Joan. We're a dear old couple and we loathe one another with a loathing that engulfs us like a tidal wave. With our deep subconscious minds we seldom dabble, but something must come impel the words we spell when we're playing Scrabble. We're just sweet old darlings who abhor one another and will bore each other firmly to the grave. And through all our years we've been referred to more or less as the Bronxville Porgy and Bess. To me.
I have a pretty good idea.
When the storm clouds are riding through a winter sky, sail away, sail away.
When the love light is fading in your sweetheart's eye, sail away, sail away. When you feel your song is orchestrated wrong, why should you prolong your stay? When the wind and the weather will blow your dreams sky high, sail away, sail away, sail away, sail away, sail away, sail away.
You've had a lot of highlights in your life. What were the lowlights?
Well, I can tell you the second lowest. You've done the show, you've given your all, you go out for a quiet drink with friends, and then somebody spots you and comes over.
I expect you've heard this a million times before, but I absolutely adored your last play. I went 4 times, and now to think that I'm actually talking to you, well, it's thrilling. Honestly, it is. It's always thrilling, isn't it, to meet someone really celebrated? I mean, someone who really does things. Oh, I expect this must be a terrible bore for you because you go everywhere and know everyone. It must be wonderful to know absolutely everyone and go absolutely everywhere. Oh, dear. And then have to listen to someone like me. Someone absolutely ordinary. Just one of your public. No one will believe me when I tell them I've actually been talking to the great man himself. Oh, it must be wonderful. Be so frightfully brainy. Know all the things that you know. I I'm not brainy a bit. Neither is my husband. Just plain humdrum, that's what we are. But we do come up to town occasionally to see shows and things. Actually, my husband is quite a critic. Not professionally, of course, but what I mean is, he's not all that easily pleased. Or he doesn't like everything. Oh, not in the least. He just hated that thing at the Haymarket that everyone was going on about. Rubbish, he said, straight out just like that. Damn rubbish. Oh, I thought I'd die because heaps of people were listening, but that's quite typical of him. He just says what's on his mind. Oh, he can't stand all this highbrow stuff. Do you know what I mean? All those plays about everyone being miserable and never getting what they want, and not even committing suicide, but just being absolutely wretched. He says he goes to the theater to have a good time. That's why he loves all your things. I mean, they relax him. And he doesn't need to think. But he certainly does love a good laugh. Oh, you should have seen him the other night at that film with what's her name in it. I can't remember the title. Oh, but you must know the one I'm talking about. I thought he'd have a fit, honestly, I did. You know the one I'm talking about? It's the one about the man who comes home and he finds his wife has been carrying on with his best friend. Of course, he's furious at first, but then he decides to teach her a lesson. Oh, you must have seen it. Oh, I wish I remember the title. But that's quite typical of me. I've got a head like a sieve. I keep forgetting things, and as for names, well, I can't for the life of me remember them. Faces, yes. I always remember a face because I happen to be naturally observant, have been since I was a tiny kitty. But names, I'm quite hopeless. I feel like such a fool sometimes. I do, honestly.
As I said, that's the second lowest.
And the lowest?
When that didn't happen.
I seem to recall one or two things that would bring on the coward frown.
Talent. I couldn't stand it when someone exclaimed that they were talented when they were obviously anything but.
Mrs. Worthington?
Mrs. Worthington. Don't put your daughter on the stage, Mrs. Worthington. Don't put your daughter on the stage. The profession is overcrowded and the struggle's pretty tough. And admitting the fact, she's burning to act that isn't quite enough. She has nice hands to give the wretched girl her due, but don't you think her bust is too developed for her age? I repeat, Mrs. Worthington, sweet Mrs. Worthington, don't put your daughter on the stage. Regarding yours, dear Mrs. Worthington, of Wednesday, the 23rd. Although your baby may be keen on a stage career, how can I make it clear that this is not a good idea for her to hope? Dear Mrs. Worthington is on the face of it upset. Her personality is not in reality inviting enough, exciting enough for this particular sphere. Don't put your daughter on the stage, Mrs. Worthington. Don't put your daughter on the stage. She's a bit of an ugly duckling, you must honestly confess. And the width of her seat would surely defeat her chances of success. It's a loud voice, and though it's not exactly flat, she'll need a little more than that to earn a living wage. On my knees, Mrs. Worthington. Please, Mrs. Worthington, don't place your daughter on the stage. Now, don't place your daughter on the stage, Mrs. Worthington. Do not put that child upon the stage. Though they said at the School of Acting she was lovely as Peer Gynt, I'm afraid on the whole an ingenue role would emphasize her squint. She's a big girl. Though her teeth are fairly good, she's not the type I ever would be eager to engage. No more buts, Mrs. Worthington. Nuts, Mrs. Worthington. Don't put your daughter on the stage. Now don't put your daughter on the stage, Mrs. Worthington. Don't put your daughter on the stage. One look at her bandy legs should prove she hasn't got a chance. In addition to which, the son of a bitch can neither sing nor dance. She's a vile girl. Uglier than mortal sin. One look at her has put me in a tearing bloody rage. That sufficed, Mrs. Worthington. Christ, Mrs. Worthington. Don't put your daughter on the stage.
What I've never been able to understand is that in all the things you were constantly doing, you still had had time to write or even read all those letters.
Well, don't forget we weren't Facebooking and tweeting and texting and emailing and linking in. If we had something to say, we either said it face to face, on the telephone, or we wrote a letter. I'd like to think that some of what we wrote will still be around after the last email has been deleted. One of the most surreal letters I ever received was in 1936 from Greta Garbo.
Dear little Carol, received your very loved small and tiny letter. Dear person, it almost makes me wish the newspapers of this country was right. I'm so dreadfully fond. Can't think of anything more terrific than to fall in love with you. Eternally occupied as you are, in need of absolutely no one, and looking forward to splendid loneliness, completely immune to any female charm. Perhaps this is an English lesson? Anyway, I take this opportunity to ask if you will be my little bride. It's leap year, you know.
I very nearly accepted, except that I just knew she'd insist on top billing. Whatever their foibles, they were all great stars. Not like a certain famous actress, who shall remain nameless, who once explained to me with perfect seriousness.
Before making an entrance, I always step aside and let God go first.
On this particular occasion, I remember he gave a singularly uninspired performance. And then there was Lee Strasberg, talking about the legendary Dusa.
When she smiled, she didn't merely smile with her mouth, but with every part of her body.
It has to come under the neatest trick of the week.
Then there was a show that lasted 5 years that should never have been put on. It was called World War II.
To begin with, it was strangely deceptive. Was it a tragedy or a surrealistic comedy? For the first few months, nothing much happened. It was called the phony war. The French called it la guerre drôle, but they didn't have much to laugh about.
Noel was sent to Paris to organize the propaganda information unit.
Quite early on, I realized that the job I'd undertaken was neither as serious nor as important as I'd been led to believe. So, not surprisingly, a few months later, it was adieu Paris, and I was sent to America.
But you always had a soft spot for Paris, didn't you?
The last time I saw Paris, her heart was young and gay. No matter how they changed her, I'll remember her that way. Yes. Jerry Kern and Oscar Hammerstein knew how much I loved it and dedicated that song to me.
I was always surprised you didn't ever wrote a song about Paris. At one time it seemed like Cole Porter could write about nothing else.
Oh, I did write a Paris song. It was for a musical I started called Later Than Spring. I just couldn't make the plot work, so I put it aside and wrote Sail Away instead. I used some of the songs I'd already written, but the Paris song just didn't quite fit. It's a pity, because I think it had a certain charm. Let me play it for you. I wanted to show you Paris in the spring of the year, when all the blossoms are flaming, gaily proclaiming our romance is near. I wanted to walk beside you on the banks of the Seine, and to recapture that bygone day when I first saw those barges drifting by. Along the boulevards and down the Champs-Élysées, there's music in the air. The lilting melodies of Offenbach and Bizet are still echoing there. This beautiful day for me will stay forever sublime, if I can show you the world I love for the very first time.
How lovely to be in Paris in the spring How lovely to watch the dancing world go hurrying by, and to remember its warm enchanted glow, stars up above and lights below. Although I cannot understand what they're saying until my dying day, I'll call to mind the kind of music they are playing and feel suddenly gay. This wonderful day for me will stay forever sublime, because I'm feeling that life's worthwhile for the very first time. That's beautiful.
I said au revoir so sadly when all I really wanted to do was to say bonjour, encore. Back in London, I wrote to Jack Wilson, my former lover and now my US manager, safely tucked away in New York. Traveling in England nowadays is absolute hell, and yet more enjoyable than it ever was before. A few minutes after you've settled yourself in your first-class carriage, it fills up immediately with sailors and soldiers and wives and children. The trains are mostly all jammed. There are hardly any porters, and you fight your way in and out of the restaurant car, where you are lucky if you get a very nasty bit of rabbit and some floury potatoes. But what is so wonderful is that a good time is had by all, and no one is even remotely disagreeable.
Germany surrendered on May 7th, 1945, but 3 days earlier, Noel was invited to a dinner party for just 4 people. One of them was Winston Churchill. They had had their differences through years, and it was Churchill who had denied Noel the knighthood King George had already approved after Noel made the film In Which We Serve. But those days were in the past.
Here was the one man who, more than anyone, through his vision, courage, and determination, had given the Western world one more chance to get things right. Instinctively, the three of us rose and drank a toast to the old campaigner.
Noel wrote to Joyce Carey.
Well, Cher, it looks like we finally got what Neville Chamberlain promised us. Peace in our time, sort of. The only problem is that it's nearly a decade and many thousands of lives lost. So now it's over, and I suppose I should share the general jubilation. But somehow I don't. I never for a moment doubted we would win, no matter how black things seemed. We British are at our best in adversity. But we must try and avoid making a habit of it. We won the war, but my concern is how should we win the peace? Your ever-loving Cassandra. Edna Ferber, another friend from Round Table days, could write a mean letter. And I mean mean.
The family here tomorrow for Thanksgiving dinner. Quaint tribal custom which does not prevail in your land. I've just viewed the uncooked bird, a vast, plump, white creature, which looks appallingly like a decapitated baby.
And then I had some subversive male correspondence as well. There was Clifton Webb. When he heard of Frank Sinatra's success in the drug drama The Man with the Golden Arm, Clifton wrote, I think it's only fair to dash off something for me. The man with the plastic penis. It could be sensational, gorgeous, and very sincere.
Weren't many of your letters written while touring around the world and back?
I've always believed in putting a geographical distance between myself and a flop, whether it was a show or a relationship. I never believed in living anywhere all the year round. The world is wide, and when my day is done, I shall at least have traveled free, led by this wanderlust that turns my eyes to far horizons. Though time and tide won't wait for anyone, there's one illusion left for me, and that's the happiness I've known alone. No remembered love can ever find me. I travel alone, fair though the faces and places I've known. When the dream is ended and passion has flown, I travel alone, far from love's illusions. My heart is my own. I travel alone. Looking back at all the letters to friends and family over the years, I realized that I had strong opinions about a great variety of places, and there were so many of them. But now I must confess, I'm world weary, living in a great big town. I find it so dreary, everything looks gray or brown.
I want an ocean blue, great big trees, bird's eye view of the Pyrenees. I want to watch the moon rise up and see the great red sun go down. Watching clouds go by through a windy sky fascinates me. But when I do it in the street, every cop I meet simply hates me. Because I'm world weary, tired of all these jumping jacks. I'm world weary, living in a great big town. I find it so dreary, everything looks gray or brown. I want a horse and plow, chickens too, just one cow with a wistful moo. A country where the verb to work becomes a most improper noun. I can hardly wait till I see the great open spaces. My loving friends will not be there. I'm so sick of their goddamn faces. Because I'm world weary, I could kiss the railroad tracks. I want to get right back to nature, assume a horizontal stature. I want to get right back to nature and relax.
All of which is why I decided to live in Jamaica. Last night we took a thermos of cocktails up and sat and watched the sunset and the lights come up over the town. And it really was magical. The sky changed from deep blue to green to pale yellow. And then all the color went. And out came the stars and the fireflies. The view is simply staggering. Especially when the far mountains become purple against a pale lemon sky. There's a very sweet white owl who comes and hoots at us every evening. I don't think it's in any spirit of criticism. He just wants to be friendly. When it decides to rain down here, it comes down in a deluge. And there is already some valuable penicillin growing in all my shoes. Being British, of course, the plumbing came as no surprise. Mine proved to be a trifle eccentric. My lavatory has hiccups and sprays my behind with cold water every now and then. It's all very gay and sanitary. The biggest hurricane since Tallulah Bankhead just avoided me. Last Saturday we had a dear little earthquake. I was on the loo at the time, and I put the strange rumblings down to natural causes. Apart from that, I loved every moment of it.
And didn't you welcome a few visitors?
Some more welcome than the others. Oh, we must drop in on dear old Nolly. Well, being British, of course, one took the rough with the smooth, and sometimes even with the rough. But without a doubt, our star guest was our darling Queen Mom, who told her minders.
You can mind your P's as well as your Q's, and I don't care what the itinerary says, I'm jolly well going to have lunch with my friend Noel Coward.
Which is exactly what she did. A wonderful 2-hour fleet off with the Queen Mom, myself, and Alfred and Lynn.
I envy you. All the people you knew, the places you've been. What was your favorite place? Ah, I bet I can guess.
Though it's foggy and cold and wet, I'd be willing to take a bet that there ain't no other place I'd like to be. Believe me, London is a little bit of all right. Nobody can deny that's true. Hotels, Big Ben, up to the 8th and back again. And if you should visit the monkeys in the zoo, bring a banana, feed the ducks in Battersea Park, and take a trip to Kew. It only costs a tenner there and back. Watch our lads in the palace yard, troop their colour and change the guard, and don't forget your brully and your mac. And I'd like to mention London is a place where you can call right round, have a cozy cup of tea. So if you get right up and got your tail right down, then London town is a jolly good place to be.
I love Noel's musical songs. What a Mrs. Brisket. Wanna take a plunge and risk it? The water's warm, there ain't no crabs, and you'll have a lot of fun among the shrimps and dabs. If for a lark, some saucy little shark cakes and nibble at your chocolate biscuit. Oh, swim for the shore and the crowd will roar. What a Mrs. Brisket.
Oh, London is a little bit of a run. Nobody can deny that's so. And big bells have a good laugh and watch the swells who twiddle themselves to a trot on Rockton Road. Centering on all says Grosvenor Square and Petticoat Lane, Belgravia, Peckham Rye. You can stray through any neighbourhood.
If you're having a swanky club,
just pop into the nearest pub.
I don't know what you fancy, does you good? Saturday night at the Rose and Crown is just the place to be. Trinkers and tailors and soldiers and sailors all out for a bit of a spree.
If you find that you're weary of life and your trouble are strong,
And the kids have got you down,
they will all come back on Saturday night at the Rose and Crown.
London at night with its gas lights alight is a wonderful sight for the eye to see, with its clubs and pubs and bars and the sleeping Thames reflecting the stars.
London at night where the sober tide is a sight that America's dying to see.
Rome was once gay in a decadent way, but we're sure that it never was quite
like London at night.
At night or in the morning. Hey lady, when the day is dawning, see the policeman yawning on his lonely beat. Gay lady, Mayfair in the morning, hear your footsteps echo on the empty street.
Early rain and the pavements glistening, Old Park Lane in a shimmering dawn. Nothing ever could break or harm the charm of London town.
Not even a war.
In our city darkened now, street and square and crescent, we can feel our living past in our shadowed present. Ghosts beside our starlit Thames who lived and loved and died, keep throughout the ages London pride. London pride has been handed down to us. London pride is a flower that's free. London pride means our own dear town to us, and our pride forever will be. Grey city, stubbornly implanted, taken so for granted for 1,000 years. Stay city, smokily enchanted, cradle of our memories, our hopes and fears.
Every blitz, your resistance toughening, from the Ritz to the anchor and crawl. Nothing ever will override the pride of the London
Nothing ever will. In the end, it was all about people, really. Not the places, not even the plays, but the people. So many of them. They've all gone now, of course. Time's winged chariot, ever-rolling stream, all that. But we did have a lot of laughs and a few tears. I followed my secret heart my whole life through.
I kept all my dreams apart till one came true. No matter what price was paid, what stars did fade
I followed my secret heart till I found.
In a late TV interview, Noel was asked to sum up his life in one word. Pausing uncharacteristically, he said,
There is one word, love. To know that you are among people you love and who love you. It's made all the successes even more wonderful than they would have been anyway. And that's it, really.
he always said he didn't mind where it all ended.
It's just that I would prefer that fate let me go to bed when it was my accustomed bedtime. I've never been one for staying up too late.
And fate did just that. It had been a marvelous party.
And I couldn't have liked it more.
The party's over now. The dawn is drawing very nigh. The candles gutter. The starlight leaves the sky.
It's time for little boys and girls to hurry home to bed, for there's a new day waiting just ahead.
Life is sweet, the time is fleet beneath the magic of the moon.
Dancing time may seem sublime, but it is ended all too soon.
The thrill has gone to linger on, would spoil it anyhow.
Let's creep away from the day, for the party's over now. Love no one.
I'll see you again whenever spring breaks through again. I may lie heavy between, but what has been is past forever. These sweet memories of lost years will come to me, though my world may go on, in my heart will ever lie just the echo sigh for
Your star will be born.